Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unshackled for Life. We're unlocking prosperity and liberating wealth. I'm your host, John Green. In today's episode, we're doing our message to Gen Z Part 2. So, my hope today is to help Gen Z and the younger community make some wise financial decisions. The goal is that you start early. The earlier you start, the easier and better off your life will be financially. So that is my goal. All right. I want you to live that unshackled life. I want you to have that unshackled mindset. And as you grow older, life should be so much greater, so much more. You'll have more opportunities, you'll have less to worry about, and more prosperity. All right. So here we go. Let's get into it. There's a lot of topics that I want to cover, but my ultimate goal here is to get those of you who are starting out as young adults to, I want you to have some financial literacy and some understanding of how money works and how you can best use those tools, those financial tools, to give yourself a solid foundation so that you can build and you can grow and enjoy the life that you want. You can live out your dreams. You can, if you have a thought to do something, to try something, I want you to have that freedom to do it. All right. The freedom and the ability to make all things come to fruition in your life. All right. That's what I want. So here we go. I'm going to talk about some different things. I don't want this to be too long of an episode, so I'm going to try to go quick, but at the same time, I really want to make sure I give you the why you should do it this way and not that way. All right. So that's my hope today. All right. So imagine, well, actually, we don't need to imagine anything. I just want, we'll just start with where some people are. Let's say that you were in your early 20s, maybe even younger, maybe even coming out of high school, and you're about to embark on this wonderful journey of adulthood. So I'm going to go back when I was graduating from high school and going to college, and, kind of tell you some of my college journey and out of college journey once I got out. There were a lot of mistakes made. And one thing that I think I'm realizing now is, man, those mistakes I made in my early 20s really impacted, they impacted me and affected me for decades. I'd probably say almost 20 years. All right. So understand that your decisions can have some very long lasting, effects to them. All right. So my number one thing that I think of back when I was younger was, you know, getting a car, going to college, getting my first apartment. Those were three big things that happened. Um, first jobs, kind of have you have the easy jobs, the jobs that aren't really going to turn into much. But then you get into your first career type job, your first job out of school where you're starting to make real money. And that's kind of when those decisions can start to mess you up. So I want to go back to that time. Back when I was graduating from college and I was starting to make some big decisions here. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is, getting your first place, getting your first apartment. I talked about this in the last episode. You want to make sure that you're not, you're not going out and renting or buying too much of a house. If you're in a position to where you can buy a house coming out of school, hey, that's great. But make sure that, whether it's renting or buying, make sure that you're able to still support yourself and you're still able to enjoy the things that you want to enjoy. Um, so many people get into houses or apartments where, they're doing great, but that apartment or house ends up taking over half your income, and you don't want to be in that position. All right. So rent smartly. If you're going to buy a house, or a condo or something, make sure that you are in a position to handle that. Okay. Because costs will happen, especially if you're buying. If you're buying something, just understand it's on you. That air conditioner goes out, that's probably close to $10,000. Make sure that you can handle that. If somebody's slips and falls, you better have insurance. So make sure that you're able to afford insurance and all of those things. All right. Other things, car debt. You get out of school, you want to buy a nice car, right? You're making some nice money, you want to buy a nice car. Again, make sure you don't buy too much of a vehicle. All right. You don't want to be in a 5 year, 6 year, uh, you know, loan over for a car. Even if the interest rate is only 2 or 3%, like it's still, that's still 6 years of you paying a car note. And, the average car note nowadays somewhere around $500, $600. And, you know, that that's a lot of money, you guys, over the long term when you start to think about it. So don't buy too much of a vehicle. Buy what you can afford, but make sure again it's not a huge expense. So instead instead of buying, something big and something expensive, what I encourage you to do is you come out of school and get into this thing called life. Keep your expenses down. All right. Even if you are making a good amount of money, even if you're coming out of school as an attorney or as a doctor or something, just understand that, yes, there are going to be some lifestyle expectations. If you come out as an attorney, they're probably going to say, hey, you should drive a Mercedes. So that way, people can be impressed by what you're doing. You have to show that you're a winning attorney. So show that, and all that flashy stuff. Don't listen to that. Don't buy into that. That's not who you have to be. A lot of people are going to try to push you to that, but that's because they want you to be miserable like them. They know what that car note is. They know what that lifestyle is like, where you're trying to sit there and living your life trying to impress other people. Don't do that. All right? Keep your expenses down, because at the end of the day, it's personal finances. It's your finances. All right? It's a personal choice. Yeah, you can go do all that. You absolutely have every right to do such. But when you start to look at those who live within their budget and live within their means, compared to those who are showboating, you don't see, all you see is the flashy material stuff, but you don't get to see the stress and struggle that comes with all of those bills that come in every month. You don't want that stress. Like, just ignore it. Don't Life can be so much better without that. So that's my number one thing to you. Keep your expenses low. Whether it is your home, your car, cell phone, all of that, TV choices, cable choices, internet, whatever. Try to keep your expenses low. All right? Because what you're going to realize is it's nicer to have some money at the end of the month than it is to be living paycheck to paycheck. Studies have shown that 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and it doesn't even stop. It doesn't even stop if you make over $100,000. Because even out of those who make over $100,000, it's still over 50%, or around 50% of those people are still living paycheck to paycheck. And those who make over 200,000, it's still about a third. One out of three people are still living paycheck to paycheck, meaning that if something were to happen to where they were to lose their job or something, they weren't to get a paycheck, then they wouldn't be able to make their monthly expenses. All right? So, something to think about. Don't choose that lifestyle of paycheck to paycheck. Instead, have yourself in a position to where you have some sort of financial stability, and you have some level of saved money, um to where if something comes up, you can make choices. You can have options. All right. I like listening to Dr. Boyce Watkins, and he's always talking about the power of options. And I agree with that. Like, your life becomes so much, you know, it becomes so much satisfying when you have options to do things. Whether it's an option to quit a job or it's an option to go on vacation. All right. When you have options to do nice things, that's a better place to be. All right. So let me go into my next thing. The next thought is, still kind of related to keeping your expenses low, but this idea of wanting to be flashy, this idea of wanting to ball out, um, the idea of doing things to impress others, keeping up with the Joneses, all of this is all kind of in the same category, right? So don't be so worried about what other people are doing. All right. I mean, yes, it's like, so we're all, we can all see and hear, and we can notice what things people are doing. And yes, it does look a lot. It looks like a lot of fun to see somebody driving that fancy sports car. It looks real nice. It looks real nice. It looks great to see people going on nice vacations. When you're looking at social media, some of these people, man, they're just balling out of control. You're just like, man, how are they doing that? Like, that's great. That's good. And I hope you're one of those people who says, hey, that's good. That's great. Because it is. I don't want you to be jealous of people. Because once you start having jealousy and envy, and that's when it starts to get bad, because then you start to ask yourself, well, why can't I do that? And why shouldn't I do that? I can use this credit card, and this credit card can give me this opportunity and that opportunity too. You can live that life if you want to, but then you're going to pay for it in the end. And that's where I want you to understand that. I want you to understand that if you live your life in a way to where you don't need to go into debt for things, to where you don't need to put everything on a credit card and pay high interest on it, you'll find that man, it's just a much more refreshing life. I've done it. I've had the bills, maxed out, the credit card bills maxed out, and getting the bills all the time and trying to find new credit cards to pay off other credit cards. I've done that. And I didn't like it then, and like now I couldn't even imagine living that life. Number one, it's too much work. Number two, I don't like the stress of opening my mailbox and seeing bills. Like now when I open my mailbox, most of it's junk mail. I don't even really feel the need to even check my mailbox that often, because half the time it's just junk mail, and it's nothing I really need to worry about. All right. So instead of, trying to live YOLO, you only live once, and instead of that mindset, let me do it, gotta do it now, because I won't have another chance. That's BS. Yes, you'll have more chances. Unless you've been given some sort of medical diagnosis that you're not going to survive for a certain amount of time. Besides that, there is tomorrow. All right, and be aware that there is tomorrow. The YOLO mentality is sad, and it's crazy. Like that. That should not be how you go through life. Now, I don't care how old you are. I don't care. Especially as a young person. YOLO is that's a fool's mindset. And I say that because, you know, there are other opportunities. There's going to be more opportunities to do things. All right. Very rarely is something truly once in a lifetime, you only live once thing. Um, if you were a star athlete, and you're going to, you have an opportunity to play in a championship. Okay, that's probably not going to happen that often. But even then, you think about those athletes. They will put it all on the line for that one moment, but they don't do anything too crazy, because they realize, hey, there's still next year, right? Unless there's not, and even if there's not next year, there's life next year. So you have to make those choices, y'all. It's not a you only live once thing. You have to plan for tomorrow as well. So, you don't want to waste all of your money. Don't want to waste your whole paycheck today and then be complaining about how you can't make ends meet tomorrow. all right, or next week when the bill is due. So just think about that. Um, Other things, Gen Z, I would tell you, date responsibly. I don't care what your orientation is, just date responsibly. Um, if you're out there in the streets, you're just trying to, sleep with everybody and do this and do that, you'll find that can get very expensive very quickly. Especially if you're heterosexual, that can result in some babies, um, some unfortunate uh diseases. It can cost you in the end. So just kind of be aware of that. Date responsibly. Try to date like-minded individuals. Um, if you're about this financial literacy thing, and you're about trying to live a life based on wealth as opposed to poverty, then try to find someone who's on the same page. And be careful, because everybody, of course, no one's going to say, "Oh, yeah, I just want to live a life of being poor." Make sure that you're having conversations about money. It doesn't even have to be about what you have or what they have, because I don't think that should be a first conversation. But just talk to people. Try to see where their mind is at. Are they credit savvy? Do they have an idea of, do they have any financial goals that align with yours? Um, Try to find those things out. And if, even if they're not on the same level as you, if they're willing to grow with you, then that could be cool. That might work out. All right. That might be a good thing to do. True story. When I met my wife, and I was older then. I was 40. So when I met her, one thing I did was I bought two books, one for me, one for her, and we had like a little book study. I was like, "Hey, you want to do a book study with me?" Trying to, it's about finances, about personal finance, and we did that. So something you could do. Look, I'll even give you a heads up. Here's a cool little book you could start with. So this is called Financial Literacy for All from John Hope Bryant. Currently reading this book now with as a book study, but it's a good little book. So far I'm on chapter 7 now, and so far it's been pretty good. Kind of looking for some good information as far as good solid financial literacy foundation. So I'm still reading it. I'll tell you more about that book later on, but that's the book you could use if you wanted to. If you're trying to find someone and see if you're on the same page with them. But date intelligently, you guys. Please, don't waste time with people that you already know are not going to be, on the same page with you. But something to tell you, and again, over, out of the divorces that take place here in America, over half of them are based on money. So, and it's not just divorce; that's also domestic violence too. Usually, the cause of domestic violence is money as well. So, try to be on the same page with someone financially, and you'll live a happier life. All right. Let's see, what else do I have? Other things not to do. We talked about not keeping up with the Joneses, but another thing I want to give you is, don't look for a get rich quick scheme. Those get rich quick schemes, they don't work. They don't work. That's why they're called a scheme. Should be scam. So stay away from stuff like that. If something sounds too good to be true, it almost always is. And I know, you'll think, no, no, no. There's people who've done it. And yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. It's good. You're just old. You just don't know any better. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna sit back and watch. So I'm just gonna tell you, stay away from get rich quick schemes. Understand that money will compound and grow on its own. If you use intelligent vehicles, it can grow. It'll grow slowly, but then it'll pick up speed as it goes. That's the beauty of compound interest. So go that route. Don't look for get rich quick. Go slow and steady, and you're gonna see that, man, slow and steady. It's gonna build up speed. It's gonna build up. And if you start as young as you are now, like you start today, I don't know how old you are, but if you're like in your 20s or even 30s and you start today, you'll be fine by the time you're 50. Like you'll realize you have a huge amount of money, and your money is growing, and you were doing just fine. You're not even going to worry about your retirement and stuff, because you'll be set. if you get into a habit of investing on on a steady and consistent basis, you'll find that your money will grow steadily and consistently. Okay, so do that. Don't worry about get rich quick. People are always going to talk about like trying to time the market and invest in this new thing and all of that, whether it's crypto or whatever. You can do those things, but be very careful. Just understand that those volatile things are just they get a little dangerous. They get a little dangerous. They get a little, if it seems uncertain, don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. Um, what else do I have with you? Um, other things. Don't use credit for emergencies. A credit card is not an emergency fund. Um, so don't use credit whenever some emergency pops out. Don't let that be your first reaction. Oh, no problem. Let me charge it. Don't do that. Instead, give yourself an emergency fund. Save up an emergency fund. I always recommend 3 months of your expenses. So if you have $2,500 of expenses, I recommend having $7,500 in savings. And you don't even need that much in some situations. It depends on your situation. If you own a house, if you own a house or a condo, I recommend having about $10,000 in an emergency fund because you might have something very expensive come up, and you want to make sure that you can cover your insurance deductible. Um, you also want to make you want to be able you want to make sure that you're able to cover that deductible. If it's something that's not big enough for the deductible, you want to be able to still handle it. All right. So for example, if an air conditioner compressor goes out, that cost me $1,200 to get fixed. And luckily I had it, but most people don't have that much money in savings, and that's why that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle is not a cool, it's not a cool place to be. It's better to have some resources, to have some money saved and put to the side. And even though it's called an emergency fund, it's more of just a when stuff happens fund, right? It's because it's not really an emergency when you have it, because you have it. Now it's an emergency when you don't have it. That's when it's bad, and that's where you don't want to be. You don't want to have the emergencies. You just want to be able to pay for it when it happens. It's more like the stuff happens. I would use another word, but I'm trying to keep it PG-13 on here. So just keep an emergency fund, and that'll prevent the need for credit cards as an emergency fund. Um, I'm not going to tell you not to use credit cards. They have a purpose. If you want to use them to gain your points and stuff, that's fine. Just make sure that you're paying them off every month. Make sure that you don't carry a balance, because why pay interest on money you already have? You know what I mean? Like if it's money you have, like why pay interest on it? So try not, just make sure that you can always cover whatever it is that you're charging. Get the points, but and the perks, but just make sure that you're covering it at the end of the month. All right. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Other things that you can do, just continue to learn more about financial literacy, continue to learn about money, types of investing, whether it be investing in real estate or stocks and bonds, options, whatever it is. Just make sure that you are continuing to learn. If you're young and coming out of school, please know learning doesn't stop, y'all. Life is full of lessons. So continue to learn from those lessons as stuff happens. Um, I'm trying to prevent you from doing it the hard way, like I had to learn. I mean, when I think of me coming out of college, I think of all of the student loans. I think of all the, at the time I graduated, I had student loans. I had a car note that wasn't hefty, but it was hefty at the time. I had went out and got an apartment straight out of college. So I had my rent. Luckily, I was pretty smart with it. I didn't rent something too crazy. It was enough to where I could cover it. It was probably about 25% of my income at the time. So it wasn't, it wasn't over the top, but compounded on, with the car note, with the, cell phone and the all the credit card debt I had, because I had so much credit card debt coming out of college, and the student loans. Like all of that stuff combined, it really had my expenses pretty high. And, in hindsight, looking back, if I could go back 30 years, well, not quite 30, but we'll say 25 years, if I could go back, I would have made some different choices, and I would have kept those expenses low so that I could have had more money to, number one, enjoy myself. Number two, invest. I would have invested a lot more. I would have been more savvy with how I invested. So be aware when you get out of school, you get that first job. If it offers a 401k, take it. If it offers a Roth 401k, take that first, because the Roth IRA is even better than the regular 401k. So the Roth is better than the 401k, than the regular 401k. So make sure you're putting your money in there, and not just put your money in, because I don't want you to just put it in there and not know what it's doing. Know what it's doing. They're going to offer you different types of mutual funds and different places for you to put your money into. Be smart about that. Look for the ones that have some good interest, or some good returns, and pick those. Pick the ones that are going to have the higher returns. Some are going to be a little riskier than others. You'll know, you'll, as you go through life, you'll figure out what level of risk you can tolerate with investing. Um, I'm considered an aggressive investor, which means that I'm okay with the thought of losing a little bit but gaining a little bit more. So if there's it's a higher possibility of something going down, but it's also a higher possibility of something, giving a little more, giving higher interest. So find your comfort zone. But understand that those vehicles like IRAs and 401ks, those things have financial vehicles inside of them, and you need to learn how to use and drive those vehicles so that way you can get to where you want to be financially. Don't just put it in there and forget about it. And not know where it's going, because you don't want them to take your money and put it in a bunch of bonds. Bonds have like very little return, and it takes forever for your money to grow. You have so many opportunities to where you can invest in like an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund. It's a mutual fund, meaning it's made of many stocks, and it's there to pretty much do the same thing as, you've probably heard of the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones, or Nasdaq. So they're kind of built to follow those indexes. All right. So if those indexes go up 20%, chances are your money went up 20%. If it drops 5%, yours probably dropped close to 5%. So just kind of be aware of those things, understand them, how they work, continue to learn. All right, everybody. So I think I'm ready to wrap this up. I don't want to spend, in the upcoming episode, I'll share a little bit more about some of my bad choices. Excuse me, so that you can learn from those. Um, but just a quick review. Ultimately, young people, when you're starting out, you know, and even if you're older and don't know these things yet, I mean, there's still hope for us old folks too. Ultimately, you want to live within your means. You don't want to live above your means where you're living paycheck to paycheck. Um, Keep the expenses low, so that way you can continue to build up your wealth. You can continue to build savings, uh, save for things like retirement, save for things like a wedding, for children, stuff like that. Do that. Be smart, and understand that what all that you see, all that shines isn't gold, right? Isn't that what they say? Or all that glitters isn't gold, or something like that. Just understand that there's a lot of BS that you're seeing, and Don't fall for the BS trap. Find and understand how money works. So look for financial literacy. All right, so until next time, everybody, thank you again for watching Unshackled for Life. My name is John Green. I hope that you've learned something from this episode. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on YouTube as well as Facebook, Instagram, or you can even visit our website, www.unshackledforlife.com. www.unshackledlife.com. All right. Till next time, everyone. Peace and love. Have a good day.